Welcome, everyone, to episode 150 of 1 Hour, 1 Decision, 1H1D. I am Chris.
And I am Tom.
And we take 60 minutes and play a random game on Xbox Game Pass and decide, well, Tom, 150 episodes in, is Venba worth our time?
I had no idea what we were getting into, Chris, and I'm excited to talk about it.
So am I. And someone else is here joining us for this crazy episode because look, we've made it 150 episodes, 3 years in. This is nuts. And we had to bring, finally, I don't know, I just realized this is the first time we've had Nick or anyone from QTB on the show. So Nick, how the heck are you?
I am excited to be here. I'm doing great. I mean, listen, it only took you 150 episodes to get me here. Yeah. If this were Pokemon Gen 1, you would have caught them all,
yes.
That's what I'm screaming.
I'm the Mewtwo of your podcast, basically.
There we go.
Yeah, hope you have a Master Ball.
I mean, well, we got a Kirby. We got a Kirby ball behind
you. Have a Kirby ball.
and you don't know about Tom's proclivity with Pokemon and how I catch everything with the standard ball.
Oh,
you will not escape.
Commitment. But we're talking about Xbox games here.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. Oreo went off the rails, but that's okay. We're here. We're glad you're here too, Nick. And again, we are talking about Venba by Visai Games Incorporated. This game came out back in July of 2023. So fairly recent from this recording. And I played this on the PC. It was 1.04 gigabytes on the PC. Tom, what about you?
Quite a bit bigger on the Series S, 1.53 gigabytes.
Okay.
My speculation says there's a lot of special Xbox code in there, but I don't know.
I don't know.
Half a gig of it seems weird.
Can I just say that one of the best parts of these? I'm not the whole episode. 1H1D is great. That's one of the best parts is finding out. Why is Tom's version of the game bigger, and why does he think it's bigger? There's a different reason every time. I love it, and the shock when it's the same size or God forbid smaller.
I mean, it happens every once in a while. So we were actually discussing this before the recording, and it's thankfully we've had opportunities to talk to other developers, and most of the time they say, it's because the Xbox code making it a little bit more inflated than the PC. And where did you end up playing this, Nick?
Xbox Series X.
Yep.
That's my home console there.
There you go.
Fancy man.
Fancy man indeed. So what kind of game is this?
I don't know if I put visual novel. I know that's not technically true, but that's what it felt like.
I guess, I could see that. I just put story-based cooking game. Yeah. Yes. What about you, Nick?
That makes sense. I would put it as a cozy cooking game. I think cozy. Well, okay, cozy on the outside, right? Yeah. But like many of these types of games, there is a very soft underbelly of sentiment and a surprising story.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, we'll talk about it in the likes, or dislikes. Who knows, whatever it is. But let's talk about that game loop, though. What is the game loop?
I put press A to advance text, complete a cooking mini game once per chapter.
Yeah. I put make food and select words to progress the story, because that happens too. You do choose what to say every once in a while. But for the most part, if you were to distill it down to what Tom said, you are basically just pressing A, though. So
which is why I said visual novel.
Yeah,
I felt like you could just kind of
But until you get to the cooking part, then it's like
yes, and then you have to complete a cooking mini game.
Yes. What about you? Anything on there for you?
For the game loop, I would definitely put it as a puzzle game in the way that it presents the cooking challenge, in that there's only really one correct way to do things. Right. You can make mistakes. I found, at least in some of the challenges, there were opportunities to mess it up. And even some unique kind of gimmicks from recipe to recipe that kind of changed how you approach it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you have to solve a mystery or fill in the blanks, and try and recall a recipe from memory. So there was definitely some unique puzzle aspects that I wouldn't necessarily associate with a cooking sim. But yeah, I think graphic novel, in a way, visual novel, pretty much sums up the other 75% of the actual game.
Yeah.
That the hour and a half of the game is.
Right. And now let's get into those likes of that hour and change that we did. Well, it was an hour that we did here. We're supposed to be talking about.
Of course. Yes.
But yes.
I played for an hour. Yeah. We'll get into that later. Yes.
So yeah, let's get into our likes, guys. What did we like about this game?
I thought it did a good job of introducing the characters and the plot pretty quickly. I like when games do that. Get me, invested quickly.
Yeah, it does jump right in. And I mean, look, I thought that the game looked really cool. Like it did have that storybook feel to it. And very unique. Again, another game that kind of will age well because of the art style and stuff like that. So I agree. And I thought they did well, even though there was no audio, like voice acting. The audio overall, I thought was pretty good. Like the sizzling that you hear when you're cooking, and just the background music and stuff like that, it just all really got you invested in what is going on in this game. And yeah, it's a very simple game, like we alluded to with the game loop. You're literally pressing A for the most part, and then I guess the biggest challenge is, as Nick mentioned, remembering what the heck you have to do to make these recipes. So that's always, yeah. There's some difficulty. I mean, it's a game that has to be some sort of challenge, and there you have it. That's part of it there. So what did you like, Nick?
I love the atmosphere of the game. I think they did a really good job with the presentation. I love the visual style that the game presented itself with. The characters, and you don't always get this with those indie style games. Really, the emotions came through in what was displayed on the screen as much as what was said.
Right.
I have to say I loved the context and the way that it rewarded the player for digging a little bit deeper. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but as you're playing, there was one sequence during the hour that I played until the actual stop point, where there was a text message that was going on, but you only saw part of it. And if you actually took a second to like go back, there was like a little bit extra that you could uncover. And so when I had done that, I think I ended up getting an achievement for that, which of course made me feel I had no intention of doing that. But little things like that really can enhance gameplay and make you feel like you found something that went a little bit off the beaten path. It's not necessarily totally on rails. I like that. I also like food. I like eating food. And I appreciate in there that they did make sure to do this. The story is about a Tamil family, right? And a lot of the food, when you're looking at it, like me, most people I'm sure that just aren't from that background, just Indian food, right? But they very early on, like, no, it's not Indian food; it's its own thing. Even though a lot of the ingredients and curries and that kind of thing are similar. But I love trying new foods. So I think if there's one thing that I loved about it, it was like learning all these new recipes that, I want to try those breakfast pancakes that you make in the first stage. I want to make those things. They look yummy.
Yeah. Like they're savory. Yeah. And that was one thing that I was really impressed with, because it did kind of get me back to my roots, because little bit knows to maybe the audience here. I am or at least where my family grew up is adjacent to where this family, or at least the characters, grew up too. So it was cool to kind of see this like South Indian style of foods and stuff like that be kind of uplifted here, and like you see them cooking, and it's like, it gave me all like the stuff, like when I go home to see my parents, and like when we would go to India and stuff like that. It was just cool to see all that stuff too. So it was definitely cool. And because like I guess I am first generation here, it also gave me like that same, like the same stuff that the character kind of struggles with. Well, not let's kind of go back a little bit quickly. The name of the game is called Venba, but it's about the mother in this. But at least from what the way I interpret it, this is like the son kind of writing this about his mom, because you saw like how much she's kind of like not suffered, but like she struggled to like make sure that her son did try to like get the best education and all this other good stuff for him, just to make sure he had a better life than her. And she struggled through dealing with a lot of the stuff that she had to deal with, at least from what we saw in that first hour. So it was pretty interesting to kind of go through that and be like, wow, like it kind of gave me moments to reflect on like my upbringing too. So that was kind of cool to see that. So Yeah, that was really cool. I had a lot of the feels in there while I was playing that game, and it's a short game for the most part, right? Like it's apparently it is something that can be beaten in an hour. I didn't beat it in the hour, but I can, we can talk about other stuff that you guys might like in this game. So,
I liked, and Nick alluded to it a little bit or mentioned it. I think this game does a really excellent job of showing things, especially even without dialogue. So like there's a point at which you need to cook and you're cooking kind of like rapid fire, and it demonstrates that the character Venba has like increased her cooking skill, and it's like I could do all this stuff now. And like important life events, they show them to you. They don't always like explicitly spell them out, but you can totally tell what's happening based on the visuals, based on the tone. I appreciate that it respects the intelligence of the viewer, and it's not just every single thing is exposition, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like I'm going to just tell you exactly what happened. It lets you put it together. And go ahead. I'm
sorry, no. And I the other thing I thought that was interesting. I know we usually riff on games that don't have voice acting and stuff like that, but the writing, I thought you could hear the voices through the writing. And then what I thought was also an interesting like visual storytelling was, everything was in white text for the most part. And then when the son started talking in English, it was a different like color, right? It was yellow.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I thought they were talking English this whole time, and now that's not the case. And so it's like, then you're kind of switching that in your mind. Oh, okay, got it. So they're speaking their native tongue, and then that's like the normal, and then yellow is like the when everyone's talking English. I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, there were little touches like that, weren't there? Even in that particular scenario, when the language was switched, even like the text box itself would be almost like muddied, and like it would appear visually different. And yeah, I mean, obviously without spoiling anything, because there's only so many plot things to spoil here. Right. There's a very deep story, like you alluded to there, Chris, about how this first generation family coming into a new country, in this case Canada, and the struggles that as someone that was just natively born here and generations gone by, here, obviously it's something that's great to be empathetic of, and while those heartstrings may not be my heartstrings, I think I can say for most people that those big moments in the plot during that first hour will certainly affect anybody who is willing to hear the message and try to relate and empathize with the struggles of a family that went from having a life in India and people that knew them to wanting the best for their kids as well, right? Especially parents. Yeah. That's gonna get you.
Yeah, sure. It definitely made you think. Am I a good son or not? But anyway, that's besides the point. Let's not.
Different podcast,
guys. So sorry. Anything else you guys want to bring up here, or should we go to our dislikes?
I have one little point that I want to touch before we move on, which is the plot does the poetry thing that I love, where you repeat dialogue from a different point of view. Star Wars does this to great effect, and so anytime something else does that, and you get that the rhyming with the dialogue, I just eat it up. So this story does that, and I love it.
Yeah, it's cool. So
very good.
Let us get into those dislikes here. I'll say, look, I mean, it is a simple game, and because of that, sometimes it gets a little too simple, and you're just kind of like going through the motions. But I guess the story was engaging enough for me that I was like, okay, I'll just keep going just to see how far I get. And yeah, so that was what one of my bigger gripes of this game. And then I guess like when it does get challenging, it's just more like a memory game where you're just like, what the heck am I like? Oh, like it got a little frustrating for me at that point, but yeah, like I don't know. What did you guys have in terms of dislikes here?
Fresh out of the gate, and it bothered me at first, but I got over it, was the no voice acting, right? So it's all typing and reading. That's the whole game. On the Xbox, you're using the controller kind of as a mouse, especially in the cooking sequences. And that to me never feels good. Like, I want to use the controller as a controller. Like mousing around with a Xbox controller is never feels good to me. So, and you have to do that here.
Yeah.
It seems like it was built for the PC and then just kind of lazy
Ported
ported over in a sort of way. But
Yeah.
since most of the game is the story, it's not that big a gripe, but it is something I feel like needs to be pointed out.
Of course, yeah.
Sure.
What you got? Anything for us, Nick?
Yeah, I'll say I think my biggest I don't know if I want to call it a gripe, but you'll see what I mean. Is it's one of those video games that it didn't necessarily need to be a video game to express the story that it wanted to. I think they just went that route. That being said, there probably wasn't enough plot for it to be something like a book or a visual, or even like a short film or something like that. So maybe that's one of the things where, like you had said, Tom, a lot of the things in the story are shown and not told. And I guess you maybe do need a visual medium to make that happen. But it did really feel like they were more concerned about the story being told than about the gameplay. And I think a lot of people are going to go into this thinking it's a cozy cooking sim. Only to find that it almost reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever seen the Adam Sandler movie Click, okay? Adam Sandler did a lot of great comedies, and Click starts out, and I went into the theaters thinking this was going to be a comedy, right? I went in with a certain expectation. You go into an Adam Sandler movie, you see Adam Sandler being a funny man, and he was until like halfway through when it becomes one of the most depressing and heavy movies with a really, really bold message that it ended up becoming a controversial film in his roster because people just weren't expecting it going. Nothing that you could have seen would have prepared you for like the twist that it goes into. And so, Tom's looking at me like, oh, now I got to see this. Don't do it, man. Don't do it.
Yeah. I'm curious now. I don't know that I've ever seen it.
Yeah, but it kind of has that vibe to me where what I expected going in and what I think a lot of gamers who enjoy cozy games and cooking games are going to go in for, it may not be what they bargained for. And I think that leads into the other thing, which is it's obviously not a long game, right? I like you guys, I didn't get to the end in my first hour of playing through. But it was obvious that this is going to be one of those games that you get through the hour or you get through the entire game one time. And that's pretty much going to be the end of your interaction with it. You may go back and I noticed you could make some mistakes while cooking, maybe go back and fix those mistakes or try and, whatever achievements are. This feels like an achievement game. I don't mean that in a bad way. Some games are just like that, where like the people that want to chase the 1,000 gamer score, you can get it done in a pretty short span of time. That shouldn't diminish, what they're going for. But I think that in a way that almost is a like, because that's the beauty of Game Pass, right? Is that this is a game that if it weren't for Game Pass, that let's be honest, the three of us wouldn't be here talking about it at all. And I think a lot less people would be talking about it and making content about it than if it weren't for, the glorious system that is Xbox Game Pass. So I think in a way, it's okay that it's going to be this one-off experience, because if you can pull something from that and the story and that's great. But I do think it would be nice if there was a little more complexity that could allow for maybe some, unexpected things, or maybe some, I don't know, maybe there are some bonus recipes. I didn't look. That would give you a little more gameplay depth if you enjoy what's happening there. And my only other thing that I'll say is I ended on what I think was like the 5th chapter. And I noticed that the challenges were getting a little more challenging. There was kind of a gameplay curve, but the chapter that I ended on before there was a lot of dialogue that ended my hour with the game was like on rails. The recipe that I was doing, it was a series of recipes, and they were all like, you couldn't mess them up. It was like, fillet the fish, dip it in the thing. There really wasn't a way to get it wrong. And so if that's how the rest of the game would pan out, then that would be obviously kind of disappointing as well, that the gameplay challenge, just kind of drops off in favor of finishing the narrative. But, again, I don't think any of those are strong dislikes. It's just, it is what it is.
Yeah. But I think that kind of what Tom was mentioning earlier, this is where like she's just so good at like figuring out how to make this stuff. I think that was like kind of the point. And it's also, did you complete that whole thing? You did, right? Or okay.
Yeah, I got to the cutscene after that part.
And then you're like, oh dang, like that, like that whole part. You're like, okay, that kind of sucked. Dang. I do want to also. There was another thing that this actually, as you were talking about Click, this reminded me of. There was that Pixar short, Bow. I don't know if any of you guys saw that.
No.
It was like kind of similar where it's like this this Asian family, they like the lady who's like making dumplings, and one of them turns into a child, and then the child grows, like she raises it and grows up. It's like another metaphors thing, or she's like, and then she doesn't want him to let him go and all this other stuff. It's very similar in that way, but yeah, like I was like, okay, I guess it could be like another version of that, like, you know, obviously a South Indian version of it, but yeah, it's this was definitely interesting for sure. And yeah, any other dislikes that we guys want to get into? Or
I will put, and Nick mentioned it, that the plot is sad and upsetting from the beginning. Like,
yeah, there's very little happy.
It's pretty, you know, beats you up, like basically for the whole hour.
Right.
So, you know, it didn't get better, you know, for the whole hour. I was like, oh, you know, things will get better, right? They've got to, right?
Right.
Yeah. No, really, no. But, you know, right, drama makes a good story. So, you know, if it was all just sunshine and rainbows, I don't know how interesting the story would be.
Yeah.
But I did feel like I was being put through the ringer for the hour. So I guess be in the right mental state before you begin might be my caveat there.
That's true.
And from a gameplay standpoint, there is no option to save and quit, which is something that always bugs me, having to play an hour and stop no matter where I have to stop. And it doesn't really show you where the autosaves are happening. But I know that there is a continue option, and you can always restart the chapter.
Yeah.
So even if you do lose progress, it's not really that much progress, right? Because we were talking about in an hour we got through 5 chapters. So how much progress could you possibly have lost, right? If you divide that up. So
yeah. Okay, cool. One other thing I do want to point out: the son was kind of a jerk. I would say that that was
aren't we all?
Yeah,
at that age. I mean, it was relatable, honestly. You know, it's that teen angst and the opportunity of you know, of a new start.
Yeah.
And he had some sound reasoning as well. You know,
course.
obviously without spoiling of why he wanted to have that start. That wasn't necessarily disdain towards his parents, but you know. It's part of growing up, you know.
I kind of find it funny that we have to put almost like a spoiler thing here because the game is so short. That's like
everything's a spoiler.
Yeah.
It's because usually a lot of times we would be like, oh, it's just the first hour or whatever. But this is most of the game if we talk about.
Yeah.
So yeah, we do want to put that up there. So. Cool. So other thoughts here, guys. What do we got here? I will say it is Xbox Cloud saves and Play Anywhere /xCloud compatible. And like I mentioned earlier, apparently How Long to Beat says that you could beat this game in an hour. I did not, because I was a big dum-dum on a lot of these recipes, so I didn't get too far. But, you know, it did feel like I was getting close to the end. What do you got there, Tom, with your other thoughts?
You mentioned earlier about the sound, and I did a little diggy research. The sound designer cooked the meals and recorded the sounds along the way. So what you're hearing, that sizzling, is, you know, audio Foley of the food actually being prepared. So that's probably why our mouths watered as we were making these things. The music is inspired by decades of, I think you said, Thummel?
Yes.
Am I saying that right,
Thummel,
Chris? Music corresponding to each chapter. So different time periods.
Yes.
And so the designers went and picked out music to try to kind of show where Indian culture was at that time. And I just wanted to point out that the Metacritic on this is in the low 80s. So very strong, thoughts on this from a lot of folks, it looks like.
Yeah, cool. Any other thoughts for you, Nick?
Not really. I do agree. I think this is a great game for the cloud. I mean, it's just, you know, especially with the mouse controls, it's not like you need to be precise with anything. So this is a great, just like pick it up and play anywhere, you know. If you got an hour and a half, I guess would be the average completion time, then same time of a short movie, you could get a full game experience in, which is, for gamer dads like us, boy, that's a That's a rare treat.
Oh yeah. Works great on the Steam Deck. So if you got one of those, why not do it that way too. All right, guys. So this is where we get to go on our final decision. 150 episodes. This is our 150th final decision. Is this a game that we are keeping on our respective hard drives, or throwing it into the trash with all the spoiled food that we ended up doing? So.
There's not a whole lot to do in this game. I think that's pretty apparent, right? But I think the characters in the story are really relatable and interesting. Yeah. It's a small time investment, so I plan to finish it. Like, I want to know.
Yeah,
I want to know. So
yeah, good enough. Okay, so again, I'm my first time on the show, and I'm already, I won't say breaking rules, but I did time the hour out. Okay, and when it stopped, I guess, okay, my review and everything I've said so far up to that point was based on that hour.
Right.
There was no way that I was going to not finish the game. Like, I'm like, okay, I have my hour review. Here are my thoughts based to get this far. And again, I'm not going to spoil a thing. But when you know that you're that close to the end of a game, if it's gripping you that much, of course you're going to finish it, right? Yeah. So like, I'm, from that standpoint of would I finish it after an hour or keep it on my hard drive? Yeah, because I want to see what happens. But once I'm done with it one time through,
right,
there's really not a whole lot else there. Will I recommend it to others? Maybe in niche scenarios, but it a very great game, conveyed a very strong message, and resonated with me, and opened me up to some different perspectives of what life is like to moving countries.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and for me, this, like I kind of mentioned earlier, this did really hit home for me, and it made me want to call my mom and tell her how much I appreciate what she did. So, that was really cool. This is
gotcha.
Yeah, I got you. You really got me. It's like, you're a bad son. But anyway, definitely something to experience. I think, like Nick and Tom alluded, this is a very short game. If you've got the hour and change, like, give it a shot. I think it's worth that much time, I would think, to invest, especially if it's on Game Pass. Like, why the heck not?
Yeah.
It's free. Well, I mean, not free, but
asterisk.
Asterisk.
You are going to pay for it anyway. So
exactly. Yeah. And this is, I will say, this is probably one of my games of the year for me. For
wow.
That, in terms of like that much, it really did impact me in that way. So I was really surprised by that. So and I wish I hope we can get the developers on the show. That'd be really cool to do an interview with them. So yeah, so that's those are our thoughts. Let us know what you think of this game. Follow us on Twitter at TC1H1D, or shoot us an email at TC1H1D@outlook.com, or check out our next streams on Twitch, twitch.tv/1H1D. And hey, if you're watching this on YouTube, hey, we got Nick. We got the Kirby ball.
I see all the comments.
We see all the comments.
All the comments.
We try to respond to as best as we can. And that's that. But and as you guys know, and we appreciate the support from the guys over at Nick and Brad and Bruno. We appreciate your guys' support from QTB. They make all the great content everywhere. Like, they got blogs, they got TikToks, and all that good stuff, and you can check that all out at quitthebuild.com/network. So yeah, that
nice.
is,
you plugged for me. That's great.
I did.
This is easy.
This is what I do every week for you, Nick. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, well, guys, that is it. That is 150. That is a wrap. That is the end of the show. So you guys never know. No, we got to find out what we're playing next. We have to find out what we're playing next, don't we, Tom? So
we do.
The surprise button is going to let us know what we are playing. So here we go.
Oh, this is exciting. Who will be the Mew to our Mewtwo?
Ooh, there is a 2 in this game, Tom. It's Watch Dogs 2.
Oh,
ooh!
I have not watched any dogs.
No, but you're going to
whatsoever. Then you don't know who let the dogs up.
This is the sequel.
Who?
This is the sequel. So Watch Dog 2 will be the next episode in this. And again, Nick, thank you so much for joining us on this show. So glad that we finally got to do this.
Yes.
And appreciate all your support with our show too. So it's been great. 3 years, and hopefully another 3.
3 years. Where's the time go, man?
Yeah.
That's it's coming up, isn't it? Yeah. But no, we, here at, all of us at QTB, me, Bruno, Brad, we're Xbox guys, like at our core. We don't hide that. We try to like be impartial to gaming news, but, so the 1H1D, we love what you guys do. It's great to just roll the dice and just, let the cards fall where they may. And that's not the expression, but we'll go with it, to just review a game and just like give it a fair shot, because I think there's a lot of deep cuts in Game Pass like this. That even a lot of content creators that may be, focused on Game Pass would probably miss. So yeah, love what you do, and hey, good luck with the Watchdogs.
Yeah, we will do our best. So that is it for this episode. So thank you so much for everyone for tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.